Hi everyone, welcome to Extra Credit, and this is part 2 of our series on the history of Rome. Now, last time we talked about some of the foundation myths about ancient Rome involving demigods and wolves. Whereas this week we're going to look at the actual history behind Rome's beginnings and see how the Romans created a perfectly balanced, stable, safe form of government that would never fail at all. Just like Boromir, Anakin Skywalker, and the Titanic. So last week we saw that the Romans believed that their city was founded by the two brothers Romulus and Remus, and they were so certain about this fact that they gave it a specific date of April 21st, 753 BC. But as we saw, that story is a lot more myth than it is history, and so if we want to see the real story of where Rome came from, we have to dig a little bit deeper, quite literally in this case. So how did Rome come to be? Well, as with most things in history, the truth is a lot messier and less spectacular than the myths would have you believe. See, as we've already discussed on this channel, major historical developments like this don't usually happen all in a flash on one day. They take place over a long period of time and usually involve a slow process of change, growth, and development. After all, like the old saying goes, Rome wasn't built in a day by a murderous wolf child with daddy issues. Or something like that. Instead, most historians agree that what we now call Rome started off as a collection of villages on a series of 7 hilltops around the Tiber River in central Italy. And from what archaeologists have dug up, they would say that these villages slowly grew and merged together until sometime in the 700s BC they formed one larger population center called Rome. Now, there are basically no written records at all that survive from this stage of Roman history, so the Romans themselves were kind of shooting in the dark here, but they believed that at this stage in their history, Rome was ruled by a series of kings who each gave something unique to the city of Rome. So there was Romulus himself, of course, who was the first king of Rome, and he helped Rome develop and grow by inviting all kinds of people to come and join the city, even slaves and outlaws. He also supposedly engineered the mass kidnapping of a bunch of foreign women from the Sabine tribe so that the Roman men could have wives, but that story sounds a little bit sketchy. I mean, even though eHarmony wasn't around yet, people probably weren't that desperate. After Romulus, there were 6 more kings who each helped Rome grow or develop in a certain way, until the last one, Tarquinius Superbus, was kicked out of the city because both he and his son committed crimes that offended the Romans. The key idea was that Tarquinius abused his power, and as a result, when the Romans kicked him out, they established a new form of government called a republic. Now, to reflect on these stories a little bit, as we can already tell from the fact that guys like Romulus are still kicking around, we've still got one foot firmly in the world of mythology here. On that note, lots of historians agree that these kings and their supposed achievements are probably more myth than actual fact. For example, as classical historian Mary Beard points out, Rome was still so small at this time that even calling its rulers kings at all is probably a stretch. It'd kind of be like calling yourself the king of Grunthal. It's kind of an overstatement. Instead, she encourages us to see the kings as more like chiefs and the Romans more like a tribal group. Also, the advances and developments that each of these supposed kings was responsible for are probably better seen as, once again, a long, slow process of historical development over time, rather than a series of light bulb moments. But as we saw from last time, even though these stories about the kings may be largely mythical, they still matter a lot because they teach us about the Roman worldview. Specifically, they believed that the last king was kicked out because he abused his power, and that's why they started a new kind of government called the Republic. And even if that story itself is half myth, what's true is that around 509 BC is when Rome really did become a republic in actual history. Now, a republic is simply a kind of government in which power is shared broadly among the people and is not just in the hands of one individual ruler. You see, the Romans believed that having one person in charge was too dangerous because in their mind, human beings were simply too human to be trusted with that kind of power. And so they created the Republic to make sure that one sole person would never take full power again. Spoiler alert, it's not going to end well. So this period called the Republic starts in 509 BC and it lasts for about 500 years, so it's pretty worthwhile to take a look at it in some depth to see what it was all about. Basically, the Republic is what we call a mixed constitution, which means a government made up of a bunch of other types of governments. Now, it was a fairly complex system, and even though the Romans believed that it all came together in one moment in 509 BC, once again, historians think it was probably a long, slow process of development over time. You know the rest. Now, at the top of the Republican system were two officials called consuls. There were always two of them so that they could keep each other in check, and they changed every year so they wouldn't accumulate too much power and become like Vladimir Putin. Now, the consuls were assisted by a body called the Senate, a large group of noblemen who were given the job of looking after financial matters, military matters, and also advising the consuls on various issues. Now, the consuls didn't actually have to listen to the Senate's advice, but it was pretty dangerous to make the Senate mad because they could kill your political career. Or, as Julius Caesar found out, just kill you. Further on down the Republican ladder, there were guys called praetors who took care of legal issues, quaestors who looked after more financial matters, and then tribunes whose job was basically to lob political grenades around and make things interesting. Finally, there were the regular citizens of Rome whose job it was to vote to elect all these officials, but like playing a game of house with a 3-year-old, some people's votes count more than others. Specifically, the scales were tipped heavily towards the rich, who could pretty much get together and outvote the poor on anything, so they kind of ran the show. That said, the Republic wasn't a completely terrible system, and there were some definite upsides to it. During the Republic, the Romans were said to have placed a high value on public service and doing good for their country, whether by serving in politics or the military. Later generations remembered the early days of the Republic as a kind of golden age when people did what was right because it was right, and not just for personal gain. Now, whether that was ever fully true is of course anybody's guess, but what is true is that the Republic was like any other kind of government, in the sense that it only survived as long as it had the goodwill of its citizens. In other words, as long as people followed the rules and tried to do what was best for Rome and not just for themselves, things could go pretty smoothly. Whether or not the rules were worth following is an open question. But if somebody wanted more power than this system was able to give, and was prepared to resort to illegal measures in order to get it, then let the Hunger Games begin. But we're getting ahead of ourselves here. After all, in 509 BC, when the last king Tarquinius was trying not to let the door hit him on the way out, the downfall of the Republic was still centuries off. In the meantime, there were still hundreds of years of happiness, prosperity, and brutal conquest for the Romans to enjoy. Whether anyone else enjoyed it is sort of up for debate. Hey everyone, thanks for watching today and for tuning into our series on ancient Rome. It's been a lot of fun writing these episodes so far, and I hope that more will be coming soon in the future. Your challenge for this week is to look a little bit deeper into the story of King Tarquinius Superbus and find out specifically what events led to his exile from the city of Rome. For now, as usual, have a great rest of the week, and we will see you here next time.